teams just saved their franchise. So the 2025 NBA draft has officially concluded, and this concludes one of the most action-packed, event-filled, dramatic drafts we have ever seen. We saw Ace Bailey go to the Jazz at 6, a move that nobody was seeing coming, especially Ace. We also saw Igor Deming go up at 8 to the Brooklyn Nets, which is another move that shocked everybody. And the craziest thing of all is we saw Rasheed Fleming, who was a lottery caliber player, fall all the way down to the second round for who knows what. This draft was insane, and even over the course of 2 days, we've seen a lot of things. We've seen some questionable picks and some picks that could change an entire franchise. Now, the first and what one could argue the biggest winner of the draft is none other than the Phoenix Suns, who were able to reshape their entire franchise over the course of 2 days. They started off really strong. After the Kevin Durant trade, there were a lot of questions surrounding the Phoenix Suns. What do you do with Devin Booker? Who do you take with the 10th pick? Would you get enough in return for KD? And how is Jalen Green going to fit in this team? This team has 1,000 shooting guards. It was a lot of stuff being said, and I think they answered a lot of these questions on draft night. The first thing they did was go out and draft Kamau Maluach at 10, who fell right in their lap. Now, I love Kamau Maluach, but I didn't think he was going to be available to go to Phoenix at 10. I thought the Raptors were going to snag him in the pick before. But obviously, they went in a different direction, and the Suns get Kamau Maluach. And on top of this, they ended up trading one of their picks to the Hornets to be able to get Mark Williams. Now, a lot of people might seem like this is a bit redundant, and I can get the sentiment. Of course, you have Mark Williams, who is injury prone, who is a rim running shot blocker, and you have Kamau Maluach, who does the exact same thing. But I see the vision. Kamau Maluach started playing basketball very, very recently. He's a very raw prospect. You have a Mark Williams who, although he is injury prone, he is still a solid center. He can fill in for Kamau as he continues to develop and learn how to play basketball and figure out his role in the NBA and on the Suns. But I love these two picks because they are establishing what the Suns' new identity is. Their new coach, he coming in, he has a clear philosophy. They're going to be on defense. They're going to be rim protecting. They're going to have some people around Devin Booker to be a great defense. And who better to do that than Kamau Maluach and Mark Williams? Another big steal they got was Rasheed Fleming. How Rasheed Fleming fell to the second round to the 31st pick, I have no idea. Rasheed Fleming was a lottery caliber guy for me, and I think he would fit seamlessly on any type of team. I was actually scared that he was going to mess around and get picked by OKC, but they passed up on him. So for him to go to Phoenix at 31, he's going to fit in perfectly. The second biggest winner is the team that just seems to not be able to lose, and that is the San Antonio Spurs. How they were able to walk out the draft with not only one of the best guards, but also one of the best high upside wings in this draft is insane. You get Dylan Brooks, you get Dylan Harper at 2, who is the best guard in this class, bar none. He is like a left-handed Cade Cunningham. He excels at getting downhill. He can finish real well around the rim. He's really good at playmaking. And putting him in San Antonio next to Victor Wembanyama and all of those amazing wings and players that they have on that roster is a match made in heaven. But then somehow they follow this up and are able to get Carter Bryant at the 14th pick, who in my opinion was worthy of a top 10 pick. How he falls to 14 and goes to San Antonio, I don't know. But now you're giving a Victor Wembanyama, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle. You're giving these players a guy who, at his best, could be like an Andre Iguodala, could be a high upside wing who guards the best player, but also has the ability to take over on the offensive side of the ball if those two don't have it going on. This was a phenomenal draft for San Antonio, and if you're a Spurs fan, you should be ecstatic. Now, another huge winner and a team that probably had the most underrated move is none other than the Memphis Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies are one of my biggest winners because you have found your replacement in Desmond Bane rather quickly in Cedric Coward. Cedric Coward was one of my favorite players out of Washington State. He got injured and he didn't really play too much this year, so he was a mystery. But coming from a D3, coming from Eastern Washington, he was phenomenal and balled out in each of those environments. And in this short time at Washington, before he sustained that shoulder injury, he was fantastic. The things that he can give you defensively, the type of motor and energy he plays with, and even the things I've seen him say in the pre-draft process and interviews, this just seems like a very good character kid who loves to play basketball, who has a lot of upside when it comes to shooting and playing alongside the John Morant and Jaren Jackson. This kind of makes the Desmond Desmond Bane trade not hurt as much, knowing that, hey, the Grizzlies are entering a phase where they're going to have to retool and kind of look at developing and figuring out their new identity. And Cedric Howard is a perfect guy to do this. He's an older guy, so he's also more developed. He has more experience, but he still has a long way to go. But this was a great pickup by the Grizzlies, and they're a huge winner for me. Now, the next biggest winner is none other than the Atlanta Hawks. I think their new front office has put together a masterclass. You trade your 23rd pick to get Porzingis. Now, I wasn't too high on that trade because Kristaps Porzingis has shown he just cannot stay healthy these past couple of years. So him being on the Hawks, yes, if he's healthy, this Hawks team is very scary, very dangerous, and a legit threat in the Eastern Conference. But the brother can't stay healthy, so I really can't evaluate him on that. So trading that 23rd pick, I wasn't the biggest fan of. But then being able to move from your 13th pick to the 22nd pick, and in that trade, you give away your 13th pick, understandable, but who are they really looking at drafting? Only to get an unprotected pick in the 2026 draft from the Pelicans, who, in my opinion, probably are probably still going to be a lottery team next year. In order to get this pick from them is huge in a draft that, from what I'm hearing, a lot of people are saying is going to be phenomenal. And then with that 23rd pick, you are able to get Asa Newell, who is a very, very perfect fit next to Trey. I mean, you're talking about a high-level big man who can play good defense and catch lobs or run to the rim. I mean, that sounds like the prototype next to Trey. And with Clint Capella already seeing his way out and him not really being the player that he was before, the Hawks are looking at a way to upgrade. And a great way to upgrade this is to get Asa Newell. And his fit on the Hawks is about as good as it gets. Another team that cooked up is none other than the Charlotte Hornets. They got a bunch of pieces to go along with that great core that they have. You start off by drafting Colin Knuppel at 4, who serves as a great complementary piece next to a LaMelo Ball and a Brandon Miller and whoever else you have on that team. Colin Knuppel is, in my opinion, probably the safest and most surefire prospect in this draft, just for everything he brings to the table and how the NBA loves his archetype. Somebody that can kind of do a little bit of everything. They can pass, they have a high IQ, they are really good in pick and roll, they're really good at processing, they can take some pressure off of your star by keeping the ball in their hands. That is Colin Knuppel, and he is going to be really good at the connectivity piece for that franchise. If LaMelo is out, if Brandon Miller is injured, this is the guy who can hold things steady. And then you follow it up with Liam McNeely, who is a shooter. And one thing that this Hornets team could use is some shooters. This team is going to take a lot of threes this upcoming season, and nothing better to have a Liam McNeely whose jump shot, I believe, legit. And that's what I think he brings to this team. He brings a bunch of other things, to this team that they could for sure use. But I think his shooting upside is something that will really benefit somebody like a LaMelo, who has the ball in his hands a lot and is really good at finding his teammates, and a Brandon Miller, who will need some space to operate when he comes back from injury. And then you have the second round where they take another shooter in Zion Williamson from Duke. Zion kind of got overlooked by the Colin Knuppels and the Tyrese Proctors and the Cooper Flags, but when he made his impact, he's really good defensively. He's also really good at shooting the ball as well. Just goes towards the same philosophy that the Hornets were trying to build. And then they trade away Mark Williams, and you're wondering, what are they going to do at center? Well, they draft Carl Brenner from Creighton, who honestly I didn't expect to fall this late in the draft. I mean, him falling to the second round after being another guy who was talked about as being in the lottery, for what he can bring in terms of what he can do with the ball in his hands, the type of rim protection that he can provide that you would have lost to Mark Williams, who was injury prone anyway, is perfect. You basically replace Mark Williams and you're not skipping a beat, essentially. And I could argue that the Hornets got exponentially better after this draft. And my final and probably my biggest winner of the draft is none other than the Washington Wizards. They made some trades to go ahead and get off of Jordan Poole, and you get a vet back in C.J. McCollum. On a team that already has a Chris Middleton and a Marcus Smart, you add C.J. McCollum, so you have some veterans there, to a roster that has a bunch of guards, some Bub Carrington, Bilal Coulibaly, Alex Sarr. You have all of these young guys. And then you go out here and draft my favorite prospect of the entire draft in Trey Johnson. Trey Johnson, for my money, is the best shooter and the best scorer in this entire draft. And I can assure you I am not stirring, and I will not backtrack when I say that. Trey Johnson, I love his game all around. And he's going to go to Washington, a place where he's going to have some of the best veterans that you can ask. And the great thing about it is, all this money that they're paying to these veterans, they're going to be pretty mid next year, but that's going to be all gone in like a year from now. So you're getting off of all these big contracts and stuff a year from now after they've had a chance to mentor and take Trey under his wing and show him a bunch of different things to where you can be possibly the guy in Washington. And then he followed up and drafted a Will Riley who, yes, there were some questions coming out of him from Illinois and stuff, but I think he provides a lot of things to the Wizards. And in the draft where there were so many great players and so many good people who were on the board, and even some guys who fell who are in two-way, like there are guys I didn't even mention, like a Cam Jones going to the Pacers, or a Tyrese Proctor going to the Cavs, or a Adu Thero going to the Lakers. I mean, there were a bunch of great picks made throughout this draft, but these are just my biggest winners and some of my favorite picks. Let me know who you love seeing get drafted in the draft, and let me know how you feel about how your team did. This is all I got, though, and until next time, peace.